Hello, welcome to Dawa CIT. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic, that is constant. So what is constant and what are the types of constant? All types of constant will be break down today one by one. So this video will be minimum 1 hour, and in this 1 hour you will learn completely whatever doubt in your mind related SQL constant. Everything will be clear after watching this video. So let's first start with definition. What is constant? So what is constant? Okay, constant is used to specify rules for the data in a table. So what does it mean, constant? Constant is used to specify rules, to specify restriction. What kind of rules specify? What kind of restriction? In SQL table, there are certain rules for what kind of data you want to store in the table, and those rules are specified by constant. Okay, I mean, if you want to store data in a table according to your requirement, according to your needs, like some columns should be empty, some columns should not be empty, some columns you don't want any duplicate value, and everyone should have unique email id. If you want to apply in such kind of rules, in such kind of restriction in SQL table, then you will have to use constant, because constant provides rules. Basically constant, what constant? Restricted unwanted data. Okay, so that's why constant is used. Okay, let's take one example of Gmail account. You all know how to create a Gmail account, right? Okay, let's suppose I will take one form of Gmail account. Okay, Gmail account form. Okay, here I will take 3 columns. Okay, name. This is a name box. Okay, and mobile number. Okay, mobile number and email ID. Okay. Okay, here submit button. Okay. Okay, whatever I insert the value, and this value will be stored somewhere, right? Okay. Okay, here I will take Gmail table. Okay, this value will be stored in Gmail table. Okay, here this is a Gmail. Okay, Gmail underscore tbl. Okay, this is a Gmail table name. Okay, here only I will take email id column only. Okay, okay, this is okay. Whatever I insert the value, this value will be stored in Gmail table. Okay, so now write name like Dawa. Now get book mobile number. Okay, this is mobile number, and here mobile number, email id. Okay, email id. Okay, okay, This email ID, dawa@gmail.com. Suppose this email ID is already stored in this table, okay? @gmail.com. Okay, this email ID is already here. Okay, now when I click for the first time, for the first time when I create a Gmail account, then I don't know this email ID is already exists here, right? Okay, so now when I click on submit button, then the Gmail account is not created. Here error message show this email ID is already exist, please choose a different email ID. Why? Because this email ID is already stored in Gmail table, so that's why you can't insert, you can't create the same Gmail account. Okay, because this Gmail account is already here. Okay, why? Because here use unique key. Okay, unique key constant. So through this unique constant you can't create the same Gmail account. Okay, why? Because the email ID, unique email, if you use unique key, then you can't insert the duplicate value. Okay, because this email ID is already exists, so that's why you can't insert, yeah, you can't create a same Gmail account. Okay, this is the work of constant. So what are the types of constant? Okay, let's now discuss with what are the types of constant. You should know which constant is used when. Okay, right? So now let's discuss about what are the types of constant. So let's first start with not null constant.
Not null constant. Null means empty, blank. Not null means it doesn't allow a null value. I mean, if you put this not null constant in any specific column, in any particular columns like email ID, then you can't leave that column as blank. You have to input some value in that column. Otherwise, data will not be inserted into table. In short, you can say that not null constant doesn't allow a null value. For an example, you must have seen in many websites, whenever you fill the online form, then you will see star symbol in some fields, right? It means a mandatory. That is, you can't leave that field as blank. You have to enter value in the field. I mean, you have to input some value in that field, otherwise your form will not be submitted, right? This is called a not null constant. So I will show you through the table how I actually work not null constant in SQL Server. Create table employee underscore TBL. This is the table name, okay? Bracket open and close. Within bracket, type employee ID int employee name varchar 50 not null. Here I have set a not null constant in employee name. Salary, money. Look at this query. I have created employee TBL and I have taken 3 columns here: employee ID, employee name and salary, right? After executing this query, table look like this. Right now, there is no value inserted in the table. It's totally blank, right? And I have used ename as a not null, and now we insert the value into this table. If we insert a value in the first row of this table, like employee ID 1, employee name Dawa, and salary 35,000, this value will be inserted or not into this table. Yes, definitely this value will be inserted into this table because we have inserted the value here according to the rules of not null constant. We have not left ename column as blank here, right? And now again, if we insert a value in the second row, such as employee ID to employee name. In employee name, we will not insert any value right now. Okay, we leave this column empty. Okay, and salary 25,000. Now, this value will be inserted in this table or not? No, this value will not inserted in this table. Why? because we have used a not null constant in the column of employee name. So we can't leave that column as blank. I mean, we can't ignore this column. We have to insert value in ename column, otherwise data will not be inserted. Let's we will not input any value in employee ID and salary here. I will leave both these columns blank and only will input the value in ename, like Rohan. Despite this, the data will be stored in the table, right? Because we have not used a not null constant in both these columns, employee ID and salary. So we can leave it blank. This was a theoretically. So now let me show you a practically in SQL Server how to write a query of not null constant in SQL Server. Okay, so let's open SQL Server. So first we create here database. Click on new query, create database and database name employee. Select all and execute. Command completed successfully. Now let's see the database. Database is created or not. Right click and refresh. See, employee database is created, right? Now type here use database name employee. Select all and execute. Command completed successfully. Now we'll create here table. Create table and table name like employee underscore TBL bracket open and close. Within the bracket type here employee ID EID int comma employee name ename varchar 50. Here I used a not null constant, not null, comma, and type here salary, money. Now select all and execute. Command completed successfully. Table is created. Now let's see the table. Select star from employee TBL. Select all and execute. See, there is no value insert in the table right now. So let's first insert the value of these three columns. For this, we have to write some query. Insert into employee TBL values bracket open and close and type here employee ID like 1 comma single quotation mark and within the single quotation mark type here employee name like Dawa comma salary 35,000. Now select all and execute. One row affected. Now let's see the table. This value is inserted into table or not. Okay. So select all and execute. See the value employee ID 1 and employee name Dawa and salary 35,000 are inserted. Now we will insert one more value. Okay. Copy and paste. But this time we'll insert only two values employee ID and salary. Okay, we will not insert employee name value. Okay, so bracket open and close. We will enter here only employee ID and salary comma salary employee ID 2. We remove this name employee name. Okay, because we want blank. salary 25,000. Now select all and execute. Say cannot insert the value null into column ename. This means that you cannot insert null value in column of employee name ename because we have used here a not null constant in column of ename, so we can't ignore ename column. Okay, we have to enter some value in ename column, otherwise data will not be inserted. Okay, but if you want, you can leave the column of employee ID and salary blank. No error message will be shown. For an example here, we'll just insert the value in the column of ename. Then let's see what will be. We just enter here employee name only, okay? Employee name, ename. Employee name like Rohan. Now select all and execute. Say one row affected. Now let's say this value Rohan is inserted or not into ename column. Okay. Select all and execute. Say the value of Rohan is inserted into ename column, right? But as you can see here, these two columns, employee ID and salary, and null value is stored, right? We told you further that a columns by default store a null value if no value is inserted in that column. Okay, I mean if you do not enter a value in column, then column hold by default null values. So you have to enter a value if use a not null constant. Therefore, we use a not null constant in the column so that it cannot ignore that column. I mean, you can't ignore if use a not null constant.
Now let's move on to the unique constant.
Unique constant. Unique constant is nothing. It is just store a unique value. The value must be a unique if use a unique constant. For an example, your mobile number and email ID. Your mobile number and email ID do not match any other one. Why? Because it is unique. In unique constant, we have to keep three things in mind which is very important. First is all values in a column must be unique. You cannot enter duplicate value. Okay, whatever value you will insert in the table should be different, not repeated. And the second is it allow at least one null value. In unique constant, we can enter at least one null value, not more than. Okay, I will tell you further in practical. And the third one, which is very important, a table can have more than one set of unique keys. I mean, we can add multiple unique keys in one table, such as mobile number, email ID, PAN card, Aadhaar card, driving license. We can set a unique keys in all of these because all of them have such a unique number, unique ID that identifies that person. So when we create a table and if there are such requirement in that table, then we will use a unique key. So let me show you through the table how exactly unique constant work in SQL Server. Create table employee underscore tbl bracket open and close within bracket type here employee ID int employee name varchar 50 email ID varchar 50. Here we set a unique constant in email ID. Okay, unique. Look at this query. I have created employee table and I have taken three columns here, employee ID, employee name and email ID, right? After executing this query, table look like this. Right now, there is no value inserted in the table. It's totally blank, right? And I have used email ID as unique constant here. And now we insert the value into this table. So let's insert a value in the first row of this table like employee ID 1, employee name Dawa and employee ID dawa@gmail.com. Now tell me this value will be inserted into table or not. Yes, this value will be inserted in the table. Okay, but if we insert any value in second row like employee ID 2, employee name Rihan and here we will input same email ID. We will not change anything, okay? Email ID dawa@gmail.com. Now tell me, this value will be inserted into table or not? No, it will not be stored value in the table because we have set a unique key constant here in the column of email ID. So we cannot enter duplicate value in this column. But if you want, you can enter the same value. You can enter duplicate value in the column of employee ID and employee name. This was a theoretically, so now let me show you practically in SQL Server how to write a query of unique constant. Open SQL Server. First create database. So click on new query and type here create database and database name like employee. Select all and execute. Command completed successfully. This means database created. Let's see database. See database created. Now type here use database name employee. Select all and execute. Now here we'll create a table. Type here create table and table name employee underscore TBL. Bracket open and close. Within the bracket employee ID int comma employee name varchar 50 comma and email ID. Email ID varchar 50. Here we set unique constant in email ID. Unique. Now select all and execute. Command completed successfully. Table created. Now let's say table. Select star from table name. What is my table name? Employee underscore TBL. Select all and execute. See, right now there is no value inserted in the table. Table is totally blank, right? Now we'll insert value in these three columns. Insert into table name employee underscore TBL values, bracket open and close, and type here employee ID 1 comma single quotation mark employee name Dawa single quotation mark and type here email ID dawa@gmail.com. Select all and execute. One row affected. Select all and execute. See, data inserted. Employee ID 1, employee name Dawa and email ID dawa@gmail.com. The value inserted. We will insert one more value, okay, but this time we'll insert the same email ID here, okay. So copy and paste. Employee ID to employee name Rihan. The same email ID we will insert here. We will not change anything, okay. After that we will see what will be error, okay. So now select all and execute. See, violation of unique key constant. Cannot insert duplicate key in object employee TBL. I mean, you can't enter duplicate value in email ID column because this email ID is already present, because this email ID is already exists in this column. So data is not being inserted. As soon as I change here, let's suppose dr@gmail.com. Now let's execute this query. One row affected. See the value inserted into this table. Employee ID 2, employee name Rihan, email ID dr@gmail.com. You know, we cannot insert the same value again in the column of email ID. I mean, which value is already present in the column of email ID, that value we cannot enter again. But in employee ID and ename column, we can enter the same value of 100 times. No error issue. We will not change here anything in employee ID and ename column. We will only change email ID value instead of dr@gmail.com. So we'll type here pr@gmail.com. Now let's execute this query. See, one row affected. So let's see whether the value we have given right now, this value is inserted into table or not. Select all and execute. Look at here, 2 is already present in employee ID column. Still this value is inserted in table. Right? In the same way in ename column, Rihan, which is already exists, even this value is also inserted in table. But why not in email ID? I mean, when we insert the same value here in email ID column, then value is not inserted. Why? Because we have used unique constraint in email ID column. So we can't enter duplicate value in this column. Okay? Unique constraint allow only one null value. In the theoretical part, we told that in unique constraint we can store at least one null value. How? We will show you in practical. So let's input a null value in email ID. NULL. Let's see. After executing this query, it shows error or this value is stored in table. Let's execute. See, one row affected. That means this value has been inserted in the table. Let's check the table. See, a null value is stored in email ID column, right? In the column of email ID, a null value is stored. Now again, I insert another null value in the same column and see what error comes. Employee ID 3, employee name Ayush, and email ID, leave it this column, okay? Because I want to store a null value again, okay? Now let's execute this query. Then let's see what will be error. See, violation of unique key constraint. Cannot insert duplicate key in employee table. That means we cannot store more than one null value. I mean, when we use unique constraint, then we can store at least one null value, not more than one.
Now let's move on to primary key constant.
What exactly a primary key is? Unique plus not null. These two things are there in the primary key. That is, in the primary key, one value is unique and the other is not null. If you define a primary key in any one column of the table, you can't enter the duplicate value in that column. Neither you can leave that column blank. So you will have to fill some value in it. Then the value will be stored in the table. Otherwise it is not. So whenever it comes to DBMS topic, the most important key that is recognized is the primary key. So there are many reasons why it is given so much important, but I will tell you for such reasons too. I have already told you, right? Once more I will tell you, which will make your best revision. So first is duplicate values are not allowed to be in primary key. I mean that you can't enter duplicate value in the column in which you have defined primary key. However, I will explain here through the table. Here I took three columns: employee ID, employee name and mobile number. Okay. So right now there is no value in the table. It is completely empty, right? And here I use the employee ID column as a primary key constant. So let's insert value in the first row of this table, like employee ID 1, employee name Dawa and mobile number this. Here you see there is no question of duplicate value in the first row, plus I have not left all the three columns blank here, and I have given character in place of character, number in place of number. So this value will be stored in the table. But in second row, if we insert employee ID value 1, which value is already inserted in the first row, C 1, right? And employee name Rihan, and we give here in mobile number 9562487521. Now tell me this value will be inserted into table or not? No, it will not be stored in the table because employee ID 1 is already inserted in the column of employee ID. So we can't insert the same value again in the column of employee ID. I mean, we can't enter duplicate value in the column of employee ID because here we have used the primary key in the column of employee ID. But if we write here 2 instead of 1, then it will be inserted. This was the first feature of the primary key. Duplicate values are not allowed to be in primary key. And the second is, a primary key column cannot accept null values. That is, you cannot leave the column blank. You have to insert some values in it, otherwise it will not accept. So let's understand this also through the table. So let's insert value in third row, but here I will not give any value in employee ID column. We'll leave it blank, okay? And employee name Ravinder and mobile number 6124876253. Now tell me this value will be inserted into table or not? No, this value will not be stored in the table. Why? Because in the column of employee ID no value has been given here, so it will not be stored in table. Because whenever we define a primary key in column, then we do not empty that column. I mean that we can't leave that column blank. We have to give some value in it. Then this value will be stored in the table. Otherwise it will not. If you want, you can leave the column of employee name and mobile number blank. No issue. Even you can give duplicate value and still this value will be stored in the table because we have not set a primary key in these two columns. Okay. For example, here I insert a value in the fourth row, employee ID 4, and we leave the column of employee name blank, and in the column of mobile number we give duplicate mobile number, the same mobile number, say this mobile number we will give here, okay, and still this value will be inserted. Here you see in the third row, in the column of employee ID we have left blank, but it is not being inserted. But in the fourth row also we have left blank in employee name and also have given a duplicate value in mobile number, but still it is inserted. Why? Why is this happening? Because in the column of employee ID we have set the primary key here, and you know a primary key column cannot accept null values. So this was the second feature which is considered to be the most important of primary key in DBMS. And third is, we can use only one primary key in a table, not more than one. A table can have only one primary key, not more than one. So let's understand this also through the table. Here you see we have taken three columns here: employee ID, employee name and mobile number. So we add here one more column such as email ID. Here you see we have already set the primary key in the column of employee ID. If we set the primary key again here in the column of email ID, then this table will not be created. Why? Because we can use only one primary key in a table, not more than one. So this was the third feature of primary key. A table can have only one primary key. I will show you in practical all of this. And the fourth one, which is very important, foreign key refers to the primary key in another table. I mean, foreign key joins two or more tables together by taking reference of primary key. Why does the foreign key refer to the primary key only? Why not unique key? Because the value in the primary key are unique plus not. So that going forward, when we have to combine both the tables and get one from it, then it becomes easy. No problem, no complexity to access data from the database. So foreign key refers to the primary key. So let's understand this also through the table. Here you say we have taken two tables. One is employee table and the other is salary table. Look at here in the second table, which employee salary is this? Don't know. Why? Because here there is no relationship between the two tables. I mean, there is no such value to know that this is the salary of this employee. For this, we have to create a relationship first between both the tables. And for that, we need a foreign key. What will foreign key do here? It will create a relationship between these two tables. After the relationship is created, now we can give the value of employee ID here in the salary table. Now we can easily identify which salary is this. Look at here, employee ID 1. Employee ID 1 is Dawa. That means Dawa salary is 45,000, right? And this value is reference to the primary key. So ultimately we can say that foreign key refers to the primary key in another table. These are the four reasons why the primary key is considered to be the most important in DBMS. Now the question is, in which column should we use the primary key? If it is a school, college or university and you want to save the student details, then you can set the primary key on the student ID, roll number or registration number. If you have a company and many workers work and you want to save the details, then you can give a primary key on employee ID. And if you are an e-commerce company and you want to save the details of the customers, then you can put it on the customer ID. And if you sell the product, then you can set the primary key on the product ID. If there is a hospital and you want to save the details of the patient, then you can set the primary key on patient ID. There are many more. It depends on in which table, in which column you want value, unique plus not null. Accordingly, you have to set a primary key in any one column. This was a theoretically, so now let us show you practically how the query of primary key constant is written in SQL Server. So let's open SQL Server. Click on New Query and type here create database and database name like employee. Select all and execute. Command completed successfully. So database is created. If you want to see the database is created or not, as you can see here on the left side, right click and refresh. See, the database named employee has been created here. Enter. Now use database. Database name is employee. Select all. As I click on execute here, this name of the database will show here. See? Now we will create here table. Create table and table name. Table name I will write here employee underscore TBL. Now enter, bracket open and close. And now type here employee ID int. We set here primary key in this column primary key, semicolon, employee name, varchar 50, semicolon, enter mobile number, varchar 15. If I add one more column here and set the primary key in that column, then what will error? So let me show you now. Like email ID, varchar 50. I defined here primary key and now select all and execute. As you can see here, error message show cannot add multiple primary key constant to table employee underscore TBL, right? This means in employee table, you cannot set multiple primary key. Why? Because we can use only one primary key per table, not more than one. This is the most important feature of primary key. A table can have only one primary key. Okay? So now I delete this column, remove semicolon from here, and now select all and execute. See, command completed successfully. That means table has been created, employee table. So now let's see the table. Select star from employee GBL. So select all and execute. See, all columns show here. This means table is created. Right now there is no value inserted into this table. It is fully blank. So let us first insert the value, these three columns. For that we'll have to write some query. Insert into table name employee GBL values bracket open and close and type here employee ID 1 comma single quotation mark employee name like Dawa. As you can see here, I have given a single quotation mark in employee name and not in employee ID. Why? I have already uploaded on this topic. What is varchar? Just watch it. And comma and mobile number 8742156328 and also give here single quotation mark. And now select all and execute. See, one row affected. That means which value I have given here. This value has been inserted into employee table. Now let's see the table. Select all and execute. See, data has been inserted, right? And now I will show you here duplicate values are not allowed to be in primary key. So let's insert one more value, but this time we keep the same value here in employee ID 1. Nothing gonna change, okay? E-name Rihan and mobile number 95624875521. Now let's see what will be error. As you can see here, error message violation of primary key. Cannot insert duplicate key in employee table. I mean you can't enter duplicate value in employee table. Why? Because this value is 1 is already inserted in the table. So such an error is showing here. But if we change here like 2 in employee ID, now it is inserted in the table or not. Let's see. Select all and execute. One row affected, right? Select all and execute. See the value inserted into this table, right? If you want, you can give the same value again and again in employee name and mobile number, but you can't give same value in employee ID because duplicate values are not allowed to be in primary key. This is the most important feature of primary key, and now I will show you here that a primary key column cannot accept null values. I mean, we can't leave that column blank in which we define the primary key. You know, in SQL database, by default, null value is stored if that column is left blank. So we will type here null. Here in the column of employee ID, I will not give any value. I leave it blank, type null. And ename Ravinder and mobile number 6124 at 76253. Now let's execute this query. Select all and execute. See, this query is not executed. Error message employee table column does not allow null. Right? Insert fails. Why? Because a primary key column cannot accept null values. So we can't leave the column blank. Okay? But if I remove the null value from here into employee ID and type here employee ID 3, let's execute. See, one row affected. This means this value has been inserted into employee table. As you can see here, employee ID 3 is inserted, right? One more important feature of primary key, foreign key refers to the primary key in another table. I will show you this practically when foreign key topics will be taught, okay?
Now let's move on to foreign key constant. What is foreign key? Foreign key is an attribute that creates a relationship between two or more than two tables. Means if we have to join two or more tables together, then foreign key is used. Let's suppose we have these four different tables. If we have to join these four tables together, then what will we do? We will use what? Foreign key. Because the functions of foreign key is to create a relationship between two or more tables. Why relationship is created between tables and how to create a relationship, everything we'll explain here. But first, let's finish the definition. There are many definitions of foreign key. In simple words, foreign key is used to create the link two tables together. In other words, foreign key is used to make the relation between two tables. I told you here three definitions. Any one of these definitions you can say and write in your exam and interview. So now let's move on to the next. Why it is used in database? I mean, why foreign key is actually used in database? It's a very simple. It is used to create the relationship between two tables. But why? Why is it so important to create a relationship between table? If relationship is not created, then what could be the problem? This is one of the most important questions regarding use of foreign key. You know what happens in big companies like Amazon, Flipkart, and many other big companies is that the details of the same customers are stored in different tables. Like if you are a new customer and you like a product and want to buy it, then first of all, he has to create an account. She has to create an account, and all those details are stored in one table. And then when the same customers order a product, it is stored in different table. And when they make payment, it is stored in a separate table. But despite being separate table, some tables are connected to each other, meaning they are in relationship. Why? Let's suppose we have two tables. One is customer table and another one is order table. In customer table, we have taken customer ID customer name and address. And in order table, we have taken only two columns, order number and order date. Here you see in the order table, there is 101 order number. Can you find out through this order number which customers this order number means? What is his name? What is his address? Can you find out this? No. Why? Because there is no such information in this table. It is very difficult to find out because the value we need is in separate table, right? But if we create a relationship between these two tables, then we can easily find out whose order number 101 it is. That is, which customer has ordered which product, what is its name, what is its address. Everything we can find out easily. Let's suppose I wrote 4 here. Where is 4? Here. It means 101 order number belongs to Ayush Pandey. And where does he live? In Bangalore. That's why relationship is created. Now let's talk about how to create a relationship. I mean, what do you have to do to create a relationship between tables? Here you see there are only two columns in the order table, order number and order date. If you want to link this table to the customer table, then the first of all, you will have to take one more column in the order table and name this column. I keep it customer ID. It is not necessary that you have to write this name. You can write any name according to you. But if you write the same name here as the customer ID in the customer table, then it will be clear that you have to input its value here. Now this column has to be set as a foreign key and order number as a primary key. Now to link the order table with the customer table, the primary key will have to set in one of the column of the customer table because the foreign key refers to the primary key in another table, foreign key. So we set this column customer ID as a primary key. Why do we create primary key? You know, if you make any one column as a primary key, then you can neither enter a duplicate value in that column, nor you can leave that column as blank because unique plus not null. After setting the primary key, you have to insert the value of this column in the customer ID of the order table here because the foreign key is taking reference from the primary key. Therefore, you have to give the same value here which is given here. Okay, let's suppose if I write customer ID to here, will it be executed or not? It will be executed. How? Because this customer ID to exist here. Right now you can easily find out whose order number 101 it is. Here you see whose customer ID to is Rahul Sharma and where he lives is Mumbai. If I write customer ID 10 here, will it accept or not? No. Why? Because the same value has to be entered here, which is in the customer ID of the customer table. That's why 10 will not be accepted because 10 does not exist here in the customer ID. If you want, you can leave this column blank. No issue will be created because foreign key accept null value. Okay, so this is the theory part. Now I will show you practically. So let's open SQL Server. So let's first create the database. Select all and execute. Commands completed successfully. Now use database so that we can create a table inside it. Use database name customer. Currently you see here on the top master by default selected, right? As soon as I execute this query, then the name of this database appear here. So execute. See database name show here. Okay, and now first of all we have to create customer table. Create table and table name. I write here table name customer TBL. Bracket open and bracket close. And inside that bracket we have to define the columns and its data type. Customer ID int. I set this column as a primary key so that foreign key reference can be taken from this column. primary key, comma, enter. One more column I add here, customer name, varchar 50, comma, and address, varchar 50. Now select all and execute. Say commands completed successfully. That means customer table is created. Okay, let's see the table. Select star from customer TBL. Select all and execute. Look at here in customer table, all the columns are empty, right? Now we have to insert the value in this column. So there is a query for that. Insert into customer TBL values, bracket open and close, and insert that bracket, customer ID 1, comma, single quotation mark, and insert that mark, customer name Dawa Serpa Delhi. So we insert here for customers value, copy, so now select all and execute. 4 rows affected, that means value has been inserted. Okay, now let's see the customer table again. Select all and execute. See, value has been inserted in customer table. Now we have to create order table. Create table and table name order TBL, bracket open and close, and column name first order number int primary key, order date. Now to connect the order table with the customer table, we have to add one more column here, comma, and enter. So column name I will give here customer ID int. Now make this column as a foreign key. Why? Because foreign key will take reference from customer ID of customer table. I mean, we insert here the value from the customer ID of customer table. Foreign key. Foreign key references from customer table. For which column? Customer ID. Select all and execute. Commands completed successfully. That means order table also created. So first, as you can see here, I write here customer ID. You can write anything in the name of this column. It is not necessary that you have to write this name. You can change this name, but you have to enter here exact name, and this name is from this customer table, customer ID. So okay, you enter here exact name. So this customer ID and this customer ID through two tables are connected. This query is about how to put a foreign key in a column before creating the table. Now we will see that after creating the table, how to put a foreign key in a column. I mean, if you have already created the table, you just have to put the foreign key in the customer ID of order table. Then how to do it? Simply type here alter table and table name order TBL, add foreign key customer ID, references, customer, TBL, bracket open and close, and type here the customer tables customer ID. Select all and execute. Okay, but here I can't be executed this query because we already create the tables and set already foreign key. Okay, so we delete from here. Okay, before inserting the value in order table, first let's check whether foreign key is set in this customer ID or not. So first expand, so expand order table, so columns. Here you can see that foreign key has been set in customer ID, which means now a relationship has been created between the two tables. This customer ID, okay, this customer ID is primary key and this customer ID is foreign key references from this customer ID. Okay, now both tables are connected. If you want to see through the diagram whether a relationship has been created between the two tables or not, then what do you have to do for that? Right click on database diagram, new database diagram, select both tables and click on add. Look at here, both tables are connected. I mean, a relationship has been created between customer table and order table, right? Okay, now let's insert the value in order table. So close this. Before inserting the value in order table, let's check first both tables. Look at here, in the customer table value has been inserted, but in order table they are empty, right? Now let's insert the value in order table. Insert into order underscore TBL values and open and close bracket and inside that bracket enter order number 101 and order date 05/01/2024 and enter here customer ID. Let's suppose I enter here customer ID 2. So now tell me, this query will be execute or not? It will be execute. How? Because this customer ID 2 is exist here. Now let's execute. Select all and execute. See, one row affected. Now execute both tables together. Now this customer ID throw, you can easily find out whose order number 101 is. Say customer ID 2. Where is customer ID 2 in customer table? Here. Who is this order number 101? Rahul Sharma, and he lives in Mumbai, right? But if I enter here customer ID 10, it will be inserted or not? Let's see. And enter here 10. Select all and execute. See, the insert statement conflicted with the foreign key constraint. That means due to the foreign key, there is conflict in customer ID. The error is coming out because there is no value 10 in customer ID of customer table. So that's why 10 is not accepted. Let's move on to check constraint.
Check constant. Check constant is used to check the value. Now the question is, what kind of value will be checked? For an example, if we want to set age limit like whose age is greater than 18, only that value will be inserted into the table, and whose age is less than 18, that value will not be inserted. In that condition, we will use check constant. For an example, we have three columns: student roll number, student name, and age. And here in this column, age column will give a condition: check age is greater than equal to 18. If we enter the first row in age column 26, then this value will be inserted into this column. Okay. But if we enter here 16, then this value will not insert into this table, into this column. Why? Because this value is less than 18. Here we will give one more conditions: whose age is greater than 18 and whose age is less than 60. Only that value will be inserted into this column, otherwise not. Then the given conditions: check as is greater than equal to 18 and as less than equal to 60. Now, if any users enter greater than 60, then here this value will not be inserted. Why? Because greater than 60 value will not accept this condition. Okay. You have to enter here the value according to this condition. Okay, now let's do it practically how to execute check constant in SQL Server. So let's open SQL Server. Let's first create database. Create database, and database name I will give student. Select all and execute. See, commands completed successfully. That means database created. Let's check a database. Right click on and refresh. See, student database created. Now we have to create a table inside the database. So for that, we have to use this database. Use student. Select and execute. Okay, now we have to create the table. Create table student underscore TBL. Bracket open and close. Int, comma, student s name, varchar 50, comma, and as int. Here we will apply the condition of check constant. Check, bracket open and close, as is greater than equal to 18. Okay, and now select and execute. Commands completed successfully. Okay, let's check a table. Select star from student TBL. Execute. There is no value right now. So let's first insert the value in this column. Insert into student TBL values, bracket open and close. Roll number 1, Dawa Serpa. Okay, here I enter 26. Select this and execute. One row affected. Let's check. Execute. As you can see here, this value has been inserted. Roll number 1, Dawa Serpa, as 26. Okay, now let's insert one more value, but this time I will insert here whose age is less than 18. Roll number 2, Rahul Sharma, less than 18. Okay, 16. Now select all and execute. Same data has not been inserted. Why? Because this age is not satisfied on these conditions, right? The insert statement conflicted with the check constant student table age. Let's change the value. Instead of 16, 30. See, one row affected. Let's check a table. See, data has been inserted, right? So in this way, you can insert the value according to you by using check constant. If you want, you can also impose conditions on gender and state. Now, so let me show you here how to put the condition in the state. So let's first copy this query and delete this database. New query and paste here. Now, we have to follow the same process which we did while creating the database. Delete this column. State. Varchar 20. Okay. Here we give a condition. Check state. Okay, select all and execute incorrect syntax near. And then select all and execute. Okay, commands completed successfully. So now let's insert the value in this table. Okay, student table. Here I delete the age. If I enter Punjab here, then what error comes? Let's see. Select all and execute. Save. Insert statement conflicted with the check constant ck student state. Why error comes out? Because this value is not satisfied according to this condition. If I enter here Assam, then let's say one row affected. That means this value has been inserted into table. If I enter here Mumbai, execute, this value has also not been inserted because look at here, only 2 states are allowed to enter here. You can't enter here any state. I enter here Delhi. Select all and execute. See, one row affected. That means this value has also been inserted. So this is the way check constant are used.
Now let's move on to default constant.
Default constant. Default constant means to provide default value. If the user doesn't insert the value in the column, leaves the column blank, then default value gets inserted automatically in that column. This is the work of default constant. And simply you can say that default constant is used to specify default value. Let's suppose we have 4 columns: employee ID, employee name, department and salary. I made the salary column as a default and gave the value 15,000. If you do not insert any value in salary columns, then by default 15,000 will be inserted into this column. Okay, if you do not specify any value in this column, then by default value will be inserted automatically in this column. So this is the work of default constant. Okay, default constant means what? To provide default value. So now let me show you how to execute default constant query in SQL database. So let's go to the computer screen. Create database employee. Select all and execute. Commands completed successfully. Refresh. See, employee database created. Now use database name employee. Select and execute. See, employee database. So here, right? Now we will create here table. Create table and table name. I will give table name employee TBL. Okay. Bracket open and close and type here employee ID int employee name varchar 50. I will not give here any constant here. Okay. Department varchar 50 comma and salary. Data type I will give money, and here I will set salary column as a default value. Okay, default 15,000. Now select all and execute. See, commands completed successfully. That means this table has been created. See, okay, here also. select star from employee TBL. Execute. See, table created. Now let's insert the value. Insert into table name. I will insert the value only 3 columns: employee ID, employee name, and department. Salary column I will leave the blank. Okay. Employee ID, comma, employee name, department, values. Okay, employee ID 1, comma, single quotation mark, Dawa, comma, department, manager. Okay, I will not put here salary value. Okay, now select all and execute. One row affected, that means this value has been inserted into this table. Okay, so now let's check. Say employee ID 1, employee name Dawatama, department, manager, and salary. You know that I did not provide here the value of salary, but still the value of salary has been inserted by default 15,000. Right? How? I made the salary column as a default, and default value is how much? 15,000. So this value has been inserted by default in salary column. So this is the work of default constraint. If you do not insert any value, then by default value has been inserted.
I hope whatever doubt in your mind related SQL constraint, everything clear now. So thank you so much for watching. Jai Hind.